If Saturday was Thiago Monteiro Day, what is today?
That's a good question. What is today? Boring day.
I mean, we just got to avoid. Maybe it's Arena Sabalenka Day. I think she played her best tennis
Yeah, sure.
since Australia.
That's actually fair. Arina Sabalenka, that's fine.
We will, I promise, Arena and her fans come to her in the second half of the show. We'll deal with the ATP side first, and we'll deal with somebody that has had a little bit of a modicum of success on the surface that they use in Madrid, and actually a modicum of success in the Spanish capital itself. Rafael Nadal. What were your thoughts? I saw your tweet regarding his 3-set win over Cachin today, and looking at it from Cashin's perspective and his performance and the altitude that he seems to have liked there. But actually, that wasn't what you highlighted in your tweet.
Yeah, I mean, today it was not the regular match that Pedro Cachin plays in Madrid. Today it was not the regular altitude type of game that he enjoys. Like, yeah, just big serve, cracked the first few shots. I mean, when he played, especially in Madrid in 2023, all these matches, he was at like over 80% on first serve. He was basically unplayable there. And today he actually kind of just needed to outgrind Rafa Nadal, which, well, was very tough given how his shots, especially at first, had very little quality on them, and he was definitely quite tense. Was it still a good effort from him? Sure. I'm definitely not in that church. Like, well, our friend Carlos actually tweeted, like he was clearly very emotional about this one.
Mm.
Maybe he's had some, private experiences as well with Pedro before, but he was clearly very emotional with this one. And like he tweeted, for example, that like today Cachin proved that he belongs with the elite. I don't think he did at all, but it was a great battle. It was a great experience for him, and definitely he still gave us a memorable match. Absolutely, despite being a little out of his element and yeah, just not playing the sort of tennis that we really get from him most of the time.
Yeah, I wonder if you're right. I know. I've actually had a couple of voice messages from Carlos as well in the last few hours, and we'll get to some of the nature of what that stemmed from, at least shortly. But looking at the match itself, and you can probably guess there is going to be a topic that we're going to come to. Probably at the end of the Nadal Cachin discussion, but if you haven't worked it out, you soon will. Regarding the match itself, I saw it go in a few different phases. And hi, Alex, wonderful to have you on board. I saw the opening sort of 3 games as being pretty ugly. I think Nadal's level was at about a 3 or 4. Even if we look at this new iteration of Nadal and we say that what he did on Saturday was something like an 8 or a 9, for this Nadal right now, Nadal was doing nothing in the first 3 games, but Cachin from neutral positions, maybe even slightly advantageous positions, was just hitting the ball long, and it was just not comfortable viewing, in my opinion. Now, you might say that some of the spin was a bit tricky for him to deal with, etc., etc. I think he got a little bit better as that set wore on, and of course, it did. He did actually end up getting on the board, albeit they end up losing his serve 3 times. But I think Rafa's level in that second half of the first set went up a bit. But then we had a thing happen at the beginning of the second set, which was that Cachin broke almost kind of from nowhere and almost to the complete alarm of no one, because Rafa had already broken 3 times in the first set, and it was just like, well, he's going to break back pretty soon. But it didn't pan out that way in the second set.
He sort of did. I mean, he went down 1-4 first, but then
Well,
he
yeah,
was
that's the point I
breaking.
want to make.
He was still breaking left and right. But yeah, I do think that game in the second set at the very beginning of it really allowed Kachin to settle a little bit.
He settled,
Like
definitely.
he did nothing to break Rafa in the first game of the second set, like literally nothing. But that was enough to sort of get him going and actually make him believe that he can win the match, which he clearly could. And yeah, the second set ended up being just a very chaotic mess. As I said, definitely not what usually you expect from Pedro Cachin at altitude in terms of his serve having zero impact on Rafa the entire match. But the battle was good. So
I think Pedro's belief came and went at various points in the match. I think it was not there for the first 3 or 4 games, and maybe not even for the first set. I think maybe even he took himself by a bit surprised, but then suddenly he's got that 4-1 advantage. And I think there was some belief. I mean, I remember seeing him do a tweener, I think, at One Love when he didn't really need to, but I think he was just trying to enjoy the moment. And I thought, I don't know whether that tweener suggests he really thinks he's going to win this match today. And I think that was at One Love in the second set. But then there were moments when, of course, he had to believe because he had such a good advantage in the second set. But then the pressure told. I mean, there was the 5-4 game. So Rafa gets one of the breaks back. And then there's the 5-4 game. So the first time he's trying to serve it out. And there's 2 double faults. I think he only did 3 double faults in the whole match. And 2 came in that game when he was trying to serve it out. Plus, there was a couple of tentative shots. One of them, I remember hitting the net and landing out. And it just seemed very nervy. And once Rafa gets it to 5-all, I'm thinking, well, it's probably done now. It'll either be 7-5 or at the very least 7-6 to Rafa. But then he goes and breaks again because Rafa has a really weird service game at 5-all, a bit like the first service game in the set. I think he loses his serve to Love. I don't know whether Rafa's focus or concentration went for one or both of those games. That's something that I would love to find out. But anyway, but then again, he has to do it all again. There were 3 points that Cachin had to fight mentally, huge jolts to him. First of all, he has a 4-1 advantage. That goes. He's trying to serve it out. That doesn't happen. He tries to serve it out again. That doesn't happen. And then in the tiebreak, he's up 4-1. And that goes to 4-all. So how many punches in the face is this guy going to take? And yet, he wins that second set.
he did, as you said. I mean, this really wasn't any spectacular tennis from either player, but it was a gritty contest, and at least for that, he deserves a ton of credit. Yes, it's never gonna be easy to play Rafa or Roger or Novak. Well, obviously Roger, you're not gonna play now in a competitive setting, but like it's never gonna be easy to play them for the first time. Obviously, you kind of wanna, you know, especially if you're like maybe even especially at this stage of their careers, you like kind of think that okay, like I can get this done, and here you come out, yeah, for the first set you just look like a child there. Yeah, it's obviously quite tricky, but yeah, eventually he was definitely able to just make it a contest, which who knows, maybe it could actually hurt Rafa tomorrow. Maybe the ground for the Lehechka loss has been laid by Cachin. I mean, we're not gonna know that until tomorrow night, really, but maybe.
Yeah, Rafa did suggest in the press conference that might come back to harm him. I mean, he's obviously had 3 hours of tennis today. I think probably long term it'll do Rafa some good. Whether in the next 24 hours it'll do him any good, I don't know.
It's
But
funny he's playing at night, by the way, because like that's literally the tournament organizers saying we gotta give him the literally every minute possible.
yeah, because he's going to be second on tomorrow night. Yes,
Yeah.
I'm not doubting that. Anyway, in a grander scheme of things, we've done a lot of love for Pedro, but I will say this: probably, with the exception of that 5-game period when he gets a 4-1 lead, he was the second best player on the court for the rest of the match. I think from that 4-1 moment, for example, the expression "it was on Rafa's racket or on his opponent's racket" is a masterpiece of understatement, because really it was just like Rafa, when he was getting his range, which from that 4, it was almost as if Rafa was angry from that point, that he couldn't believe that this match had taken such a twist, that he just produced a pretty good level, and it was enough to really accelerate things to the situation where at least he got to the tiebreak, albeit he couldn't quite, wrestle that back enough from the 4-1 deficit he had. But then it goes into the third set, and again, he's just continuing where he left off. I think did he have a double break advantage in the third set? Or he kept getting close to it.
He
I think,
could
oh no,
have. He could have, yeah.
he got 15-40, didn't he? I think, but couldn't have
Yeah.
taken it. And then he got
Yeah.
broken back, didn't he? So it was a bit of a weird match in that respect.
I mean, it wasn't weird in the sense that neither player was getting anything done with their serves. So like
Yeah.
they were like
Second
literally
serve
rallying
especially.
from they were literally rallying of the base. I mean, first serve is more important. The fact that they were both like winning like what 55-60 for the entire match. Like it just didn't do any good for either player. So they were just like constantly rallying, catching off the back of the court. Yeah, I mean, he might produce some decent angles, especially on the backhand cross, but like otherwise, he's not that much of a threat when he's not attacking. And yeah, it just became such a slog. I mean, obviously, the first set was over in a flash, and yet it still went over 3 hours. And
Yeah.
it had potential for more. It had potential for more if the third set goes to a tiebreak. So, I mean, but yeah, this was just like constant rallying. And it's pretty funny too, because I think in the first set, Rafa won like all the points over 9 shots or something like that. He was like
Hmm.
13 love or something like that. I would like to see where that stat got to at the end of the match, but definitely there was this long stretch where he actually didn't lose a single point that went over 9 shots, and after that he kept losing them kind of, at least 50-50 to Cachin. And yeah, there was just so much rallying from the back of the court without Cachin being able to yeah, just produce all that much from there. And well, that's why it ended up being such a draining contest as well. And well, a good physical test for Rafa.
Yeah. I think in the long term, it'll actually do him some good. Whether it'll do enough good for tomorrow, I'm not sure. Nadal did say in his press afterwards that actually he felt okay. And I thought in the match, with the exception of maybe the last couple of games, I think generally physically he was fine. It was just the last couple of games. I remember him sort of blowing a bit after a couple of points and just wondering how it would be. But generally okay, especially as it was 3 hours. And he said afterwards said he felt okay, but we'll see how it is tomorrow. But at the moment, he says he felt okay. Rafa Nadal is, as you said, playing last tomorrow night on centre court or on the Manolo Santana Court Stadium. And it'll be the first time in his career, apparently, he's being played at that time. And of course, who knows when that might be? If the first, unlike tonight, and I think a lot of the nights this week, the first match has been pretty quick. Maybe tomorrow could be 3 sets, and he might not take the court till midnight. We don't know. But anyway, for the first time in his career, given what happened today, I agree with the decision. Playing at night gives me more hours to sleep, recover, etc. So, of course, yeah. Nadal also said he prefers playing indoors than outdoors in Madrid, which is obviously the conditions he had on Saturday. I remember him doing pretty well when the roof was on in Melbourne a few years ago as well. So maybe in these larger environments where he doesn't always perform so well, something changing, such as the indoor-outdoor side. But this is probably the most interesting point that I liked from his press conference, which was 3 weeks ago, I was losing to every kid at my academy, and now I'm competing again against the best players on the ATP circuit and winning matches. So that obviously is surprising him. Insists, though, he would be surprised to beat Lehetska tomorrow, especially after what happened today, and says Lehetska's ball is even tougher than de Minaur's. What do you think about that Lehetska ball comment?
What is that supposed to mean? Even tougher than de Minaur's? I mean, Alex de Minaur has like one of the least quality balls on the tour, right?
Maybe he was comparing the 3 matches that he's played. I don't know. Maybe I don't know what the question was. So
Yeah, and so this clip out of context, I mean, sounds very weird because Alex like has very little like spin power potential in his shots, obviously. Uh, Lehechka is on the other hand an extremely clean ball striker. So yeah, I mean, obviously, I mean, to me, it's pretty clear that Lehechka has all the arguments in his hand to win this match. Then again, like he's gonna play Rafa, it's on clay as well in Madrid. It's never obvious that he will execute. So
okay, so there is one final topic, which of course is T-shirt gate, which was basically at the end of the match, Pedro asking Rafa if he could have a shirt or some kind of memento from the occasion. Rafa, of course, duly obliged. This prompted David Law to basically express his disappointment with that situation with Pedro asking for the shirt. And then some Twitter back and forth and various people getting involved in what they thought. Now, I think where David is coming from is that from a football perspective, when your team has just lost quite badly, you don't ask the opposition player for a shirt exchange. And if you do, you'll probably get some pretty short shrift from your manager or coach. And that I recall happening about 20 years ago when Van Nistelrooy was quite happy to stay a bit later on the pitch and exchange shirts with some Man City players, despite the fact that we just had a pretty brutal loss. However, that is sort of one take on it. And of course, I think just to add another layer to that take, We often see players go in against the big three, whether it be, I remember Nadal against Federer a few years ago at the US Open, or many players as well, especially of the same nationality, playing Djokovic. And of course, we've seen with Nadal, with Corda having his cat named after him, and so on and so forth. And then I think as fans, people go in and they think, oh, this guy's not going to be trying hard enough or have the right mentality to challenge Pedro, for example, in this moment. And that's where I think David is coming from. Now, the other side is, what's wrong with it? You know, he's actually given everything. He's not won the match, but he's done absolutely everything he possibly can. And to be honest with you, if that was me playing Rafa Nadal, I would probably do the same. Maybe I would catch him at another moment if I possibly could, somehow, somewhere along the lines. But yeah, that's the two sides of the argument. I think I know where you fall, but you can tell me what you think.
There's no argument. I mean, anyone seeing any negatives in these? I also don't see any positives in this. Like people, for example, like saying that, "Wow, Rafa, such a great sportsmanship gesture." I mean, can you imagine him saying no? Can you imagine him actually saying no? Of course not. I mean, it would never happen. And in your example, like if Ruud van Nistelrooy was playing, you know, his famous, like I don't know, his idol, whoever that would be, Johan Cruyff, he would also ask him for a for a shirt. And also, this wasn't even a brutal defeat. I mean, this was really a great battle that they had. Him wanting to have some memorabilia from that is absolutely normal. Personally, if I was a pro player, I couldn't imagine myself not doing it. But again, like, you know, whatever. It's not negative or positive. Pedro did that. Rafa gave him the shirt because obviously, you know, he's going to. Why wouldn't he? And all in all, I mean, yeah, I can't really understand the comment. I don't think we should crucify the guy for it either. Like, you know, it's really not the end of the world as well that David Law said something like this. But on the other hand, I mean, yeah, just the whole tweet is just reeks of entitlement as well with that "ain't it" and stuff. Well, it's his choice to tweet that. It's his choice. I mean, I didn't even respond to him there when he said souvenir and 2 question marks. I'm pretty sure he knows what the word souvenir means. So I think the discussion was over. But yeah, it's a bit sad that people feel the need to tweet something like that. But well, what can I do? To me, that's really not a big deal, or not even anything that we should be like writing books about in a positive way either. I mean, it's really neutral to me.
I think I feel a bit stronger about some of the Rafa's an amazing guy for doing it actually than because I just think that's so such a silly thing to say.
Yeah.
I think it's a sort of I think it's a football mentality that David is hinting at there, and that. But actually, Terry, Djokovic fans go for David Law a lot more than Rafa and Roger fans do, particularly during the COVID period. So I don't 100% tell you now, Terry, he's not a Djokovic fan. But yep, okay, well, that is T-shirt gate. I've given sort of my viewpoints on it. I don't really.
I don't think, by the way, that like Djokovic fans going at him has to mean that he's not a Djokovic fan.
No,
right? I mean,
no, that's true. Yeah.
Everyone, like,
we
you
know
know,
what
anything you say
show.
about the big three on Twitter, yeah, like you're gonna find people who one day are going to tell you you can't be such a Rafa fan. The other day they're gonna tell you can't be such a Novak fan. It's just what happens, right?
Yeah. But anyway, I think that there was possibly a hint of concern that whether maybe Pedro was putting in everything, but sometimes these players can overawe you, and perhaps maybe some people might see asking for a shirt at the net as a symptom of that. I would look at it the other way around. I would just say, listen, he did absolutely everything he possibly could to win that tennis match. Yes, he might be overawed, just like, you know, visiting teams to Anfield or Old Trafford 15 years ago, but not now, might have felt. It's just the nature of the beast when you win 22 Grand Slams and you're playing in front of your home crowd. Maybe we're all going to grow up and have heroes. Anyway, that is that. That tweet got 130,000 views. Oh, yeah, so it did. So maybe there is in lies a clue as well. Okay. T-shirt gate dealt with. Rafa Nadal done. We're going to move on. Rafa Nadal will be playing Lehetska next because Lehetska dealt with Montero in straight sets.
Yeah, nothing much to say there. I mean, Thiago maintaining that intensity after that Tsitsipas win was always going to be tough, was always going to be rather unlikely that he plays another best match of his career back to back. He didn't. It was still pretty tight in the second set, but I mean, yeah, you just don't repeat that performance against Tsitsipas right away. Like, that's just impossible.
Okay, moving on to a couple of three setters. Do you want to begin with the one that you were commentating on earlier or Medvedev Corda? I think both were equally intriguing.
Uh, Wherever you wish. I mean, yeah, both were definitely a big story today. Medvedev Corda, we just have Sebi picking again for that matchup. We just have him once again looking like a tactical genius in it for the most part. Just the way that he's able to open up the court, transition forwards, like that's something, of course, that is in his game. But like against Medvedev, he suddenly does it, 10 out of 10, and basically he's so natural at it too. Like really brings out the whole technical range that he has. Obviously, being like one of the cleanest players in the game too. But well, there is a sour taste to it for sure. The way that he played, especially in the tiebreak, and he literally couldn't execute his shots anymore. And I'm not talking about anything crazy, right? I'm just talking about getting the ball over the line, like just the executing the swings. Yeah, I mean the tension was so high in him again,
Yeah.
and he does lose that match right there on the spot. It's another fight from a set down for Medvedev, and well, he also deserves a lot of credit for sticking around, obviously, and for winning both against Arnaldi and Corda, who both have a lot to regret in these matches.
Yeah, right. This does seem to be a thing with Corda, a running theme that the mental side of it does seem to sort of weigh him down. It's now 3-2 in that head-to-head. Of course, he's had some pretty epic battles with Medvedev before, but I think for a set and a half, he was playing beautifully. Just such clever, constructed tennis against probably someone who's also seen in a very sort of different way. I wouldn't necessarily use the adjective beautiful, but someone who can construct points, arguably the best on the tour, maybe with the exception of Djokovic. But Corda was just there, and I just thought, hang on, I think he had a couple of chances. I'm just trying to remember the exact points, but I mean around about 5-all, 5-6, 6-5, something like that. There was some points there, some juices, and I think he got to maybe even juice, and therefore 2 points away from victory.
He
Yeah, I'm
did,
pretty
yeah,
sure.
from 40 love up, yeah.
Yeah, so he was 40 love down. Do you mean?
Yeah, I mean Medvedev was 40 love up, and
Yeah.
it got to
Then he got
juice, yes.
juiced, yeah. And so you're thinking, hang on, so it was 2 points from victory. I think I remember preparing a tweet, thinking that Corda might just get over the line here.
I was ready with a Corda tweet, yeah.
Yeah. And it was largely based on what I've just said, which until that exact moment, he was not comfortably the better player, but it would just been the better player in the big moments until that moment, and then the tie break. And I don't know. I didn't see much of the third set. I'm just trying to think. Did that overlap with the Nadal match? I think it might have done. I'm not sure, but anyway, it was. I had it on, but maybe I was doing some other things, having lunch, etc. And the match slipped away from him. That didn't take me by surprise. So there we go. Better luck next time, Sebi, and I'm sure you'll be back because the level is there, but it's a bit of a difficult thing for him to sort of fix in a way because I do think that was mentioned on TV. It's like, what can he do? What's the best thing he could do? I think the forehand was highlighted on TV today, but I think if he could take a notch up on the mental side of things, I think he'd be going much deeper and maybe even winning a tournament or two.
I mean, Ghosty will not like what I say right now, but I think Sebastian Corda, of course, for years has been a player who should be better than he is, but he isn't. And it's very tough to explain why. But yeah, the second set tiebreak especially, just you can't get this nervy, Pedro Cachin was not that nervous against Rafa, I guess. And Yeah, it was just rough to watch because he definitely blew that whole advantage. Thank you, Julian.
There was a funny moment from Daniel today when he said when there was a point when he said about maybe potentially closing the roof, and the umpire said, "Well, I don't make the decision; they do." And Daniel said, "Who are they? The Illuminati?" And he had to say it again because you could see the umpire just want to avoid it. And in a way, it did sort of sum up a few things in tennis where I see so many people, and even then the umpire didn't really address it, by the way. And I see so often in tennis, people just want to pass the buck. They just don't want to deal with the issue. And it is nobody wants to take control, whether that from the top to the bottom. In fact, possibly at the bottom that people are quite happy to take a bit of control. But apart from those guys that are doing the real hard work, no one else wants to take control. And
yeah, but like, what do you wants to do? You know, what do you expect from the umpire in that situation?
who's making the decision?
I mean, the supervisor and like the organizers, you know, whatever. Like, you know,
Yeah,
not him anyway.
yeah. Someone else can deal with it, and that's the thing.
No, but like he can't deal with it, you know. He gets well, he doesn't even get orders because it's not him who's closing the roof. So like what is he supposed to do about it?
Yeah, just pass the buck.
Thank you, Nurlan,
Anyway,
I guess, of I wish you stayed quiet.
yeah. By the way, Alex, I don't know what you're doing, but please do not. What we do, Alex, very important piece of advice is do not engage with Nurlan on a kind of rational, sensible level. Look at what he says. Occasionally laugh. Occasionally highlight it. Sometimes he might say something that's sort of half rational, and we might touch on it. You know, it might be like Volley Nets is going to beat Swiatek tomorrow, and we'll have a quick laugh about it, and we'll say why she won't.
Vansh the other day actually read out a tweet from Nurlan, but he didn't tell me. It's not a tweet, but a
No,
comment.
I know,
And
I
he,
saw that, and it was so. And I heard
yeah,
exactly the same.
he didn't tell me that it was a comment from Nurlan, and it was very rational actually. So sometimes you
Oh,
gotta, you know, look past your
okay,
prejudices. Let's say that.
okay, yeah. Julian, by the way, Court of Madrid
Also,
is
here
tomorrow.
Nurlan is very rational. You know, just it just got me a little
Yeah,
uncomfortable.
right.
Just got me a
Hi,
little uncomfortable, but that's it.
Julian, by the way, who's got a nice PM. I don't know if that means he's a prime minister of somewhere. Do make sure you hit the like button, and please, if you haven't already done so, Julian, hit subscribe. Julian, by the way, with your PM thing, I would like to belatedly highlight a tweet before we move on to Bublik and his match with who did Bublik play again now? I've forgotten.
Shelton.
Shelton, yes. But just before we do that, I just want to highlight this extremely cleverly crafted tweet that I saw earlier. And I thought we've got to highlight this. And it's this one here, which is saying you might leave but end up staying might be a thing in Spain at the moment, and highlighting both Rafa Nadal and the Spanish Prime Minister, who have both threatened to step down but have not yet done so. Anyway, you can follow
David
that.
Lowe got 116K views on his. You got 188 views on yours. Well, that's all I'm gonna say. I also didn't know who Pedro Sanchez was, so it
Don't
would have
worry.
flown, you know, it would have flown past me. But
Okay, moving on from 188 view tweets, we can now go back to the tennis and talk about the match that you were commentating on, which was Bublik against Shelton. And the funny thing about this match was I was just thinking about this earlier because I was basically in a sort of zombie-ish state for the first set because I was doing a night shift last night. I quickly set up the stream. That was no problem, of course, but then basically drifted through. But there was a sort of semi state of consciousness where I could hear your voice and things going on, and kind of more or less woke up in the second set, which is exactly what happened to Bublik, because he even complained of the fact that he was having to wake up early for this match and he doesn't like it very much, and decided to wake up at some point during the second set. I heard you come out with some interesting comments as well about him doing some crazy stuff, but there being some kind of logic to it, and it sort of did sort of make. There was a couple of underarm serves as well, and anyway, you commentated on the match, so you talk us through it.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much what you said. Just the fact that he was throwing in the variety in all the key moments and doing it pretty smart, actually, for not the first time in his career, but it really made sense. Like the way that he was luring Shelton into the net. Ben definitely had a lot of issues like controlling his shots when he was like very close to the net or just coming up with any answers to the +1 drop shots. So at 2-all in the second set, Bublik has 3 consecutive breakpoints to save, then a fourth one. He like really goes wild on them. In the third set, even Tennis TV highlighted it later. I saw that it was like never never let them know your next move or something like that. There was this one where Ben prepares to serve and then Bublik actually moves forward like really a lot of steps, like from the back fence he basically goes to the baseline and he plays this soft forehand drop shot return, and again it really messes up Ben. So it did feel like to a lot of the craziness from Bublik there was actually logic behind it, and that's kind of how he won the match. I mean, you can definitely blame Shelton for it too, because I don't know what the guy was doing. I mean, he was just serving volleying 90% of the points. He didn't trust himself from the baseline whatsoever today. But yeah, I mean, Bublik in Madrid, second run in his career. I mean, he's made the quarterfinals before, but of course that was a different event as well back then, 56 players rather than 96. So it's kind of comparable, I think, to me to reach that one here. He hadn't beaten a top 20 player on clay in 3 years, actually, since that very run. And yeah, I mean, he's when he wants to, he's perfectly fine on the surface, and especially in Madrid.
Yeah. Okay. Casper Ruud, straight sets win over Cam Norrie. And I did think about this at various points because I think, again, this one might well have been overlapping with the Rafa match. And it was reminding me of some conversations that we were having in the last 24, 48 hours or so, basically regarding Ruud and the likelihood of him beating Norrie and the likelihood of Rafa beating Cachin.
Yeah, Keen was
From
asking about it on the
yeah,
stream earlier today when I was doing Bublik Shelton, and basically my opinion was that Ruud has no chance to lose. Well,
Rafa could lose, basically. Yeah, it was kind of like I was getting a 60-40 vibe for Rafa and a 80-20 vibe for Ruud, but maybe I'm getting the numbers slightly wrong on that. But you were basically saying that Ruud was a heavier favourite, and the scoreline reflects that. So Casper Ruud, his incredible form from this year, and I think really whatever happens now, he's reached his point because I think he's going to play Yannick Sinner next. Am I right on that?
no. Sinner plays Kachanov.
Sorry, Sinner's the
Ruud
quarterfinals.
plays Felix. Ruud plays Felix.
Okay. Oh,
So,
okay. So he's probably got to win
well,
that one because
he's got a
Felix,
fantastic draw to make the quarters. Yeah.
yeah, Felix, of course, overcame your mate, Mahatch today, right?
Manchik.
Mensik, sorry, Mensik.
Yeah, I mean, overcame is maybe a strong word given what happened,
Yeah.
but yeah, Manchik
Was it
was
elbow
injured
in the
from the
end?
get go. Something on his arm, like he had heavy strapping around the elbow area. He took it off for the second set, but then just retired after one game. I mean, he wasn't fit from the very first game.
So there we go. Felix kind of goes through in a semi-unremarkable fashion where he'll play Casper Ruud next. And I believe that all the men's matches are tomorrow, right?
Yes, the entire forefront, just like on the women's, but that was today on the
Got
women's.
it. Got it. What other men's matches are there, if there are any? I'm just trying to have a quick look now
Today or tomorrow.
from today.
I mean, Sinner beat Kotov, Kachanov beat Koboli. Is there anything else? I think otherwise we might have actually talked about this all. I think it's just this one piece of a section of the draw, Sinner, Kotov, and Koboli, Kachanov Koboli,
Yeah.
that we didn't
So I
touch on. I don't know if
saw.
there's much to touch on either. I mean, maybe in Sinner Kotov the hip issues, right? Like that's something that we
Yeah.
need to mention.
Sinner mentioned
No clue.
it in his post-match interview, I think, or one of his post-match interviews about a slight hip issue. I will say this. I didn't see it in the match. I thought his defense was incredible. Well, I watched the second set. I didn't see the first set. In fact, I thought
You
once
must
he
have
sort
been
of
watching it like not too attentively because he was
was he touching his
showing
hip?
it. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if he was touching the hip, but like he was showing that something's not fine with him for the entire second set, I would say. So
Okay. But his defense was incredible. His returns were as good as always. Okay, maybe the scorelines took us all a bit by surprise with Kotov of a break and also having a set point. And really, Kotov should have made that go to a third set. He did have chances, even at 5-5 once Sinner broke back. I remember a swing volley, although that could have been when he was trying to serve it out, that was a bit ugly, and a couple of other unforced errors where I think he just was a bit tight trying to get over the line in the second set. I still think Sinner would have won that match, probably at a canter, would have probably won the final set 6-1 or something like that. But Sinner still was nuts. His returns every time he had a chance was so solid. Kotov actually, once the rallies were getting going, and if he was in the rally, was doing pretty well to hang with Sinner, but it was just literally hanging with him. And that's the 7-5 set. I didn't see the 6-2 set, which I imagine was even more comfortable for Yannick. So that is Yannick Sinner progressing. And I think, as you say, he's going to play Khachanov next, who beat Koboli. And I didn't see a single ball from that. So I have nothing to add to the Khachanov-Koboli match unless you do.
No, wasn't watching it either. Sinner only started watching in the second set once it became close, once it became interesting. And people on Twitter were saying that he's that he's not looking too sharp physically and might even maybe pull the plug if he loses the set. Given how close it got in the end, he probably wouldn't have. But yeah, tomorrow Sinner Khachanov. I mean, Karen has already lost to Yannick this year. It's not looking too bright, but maybe on clay he has a slightly better shot. Maybe the hip issues. I mean, we'll have to see what the impact of that is.
Okay, let's switch over to the women, and we'll begin with Colin Sabalenka because it's freshest in my mind. I think this delivered in that I think both players were not overawed by each other or intimidated by each other, but I also think it brought it because this is the best I've seen Aryna Sabalenka play since the Australian Open. Nerland saying finally there. I mean, there's not a lot of competition for that prize, to be fair, for Aryna in terms of some pretty average performances in Dubai, Miami, and Indian Wells before arriving in Madrid, and also Stuttgart as well, although probably did it pretty well to beat Badosa there. But here we are, and now I think that's her best performance. And this best performance is also because of what was going on the other side of the net. Collins was fantastic as well, particularly for 2 sets. I had a feeling she might just go away in the third, and she almost did before a mini revival, and then Aryna got over the line. But both of them, I saw some stats at the end of the first set, and I thought, first of all, oh, I'm surprised there weren't more winners in that set. But then I was thinking, the thing is, with the way they play, often one player or the other can still get a racket on the ball, but it's just not going to be enough because of the aggression from the other side of the net. But yeah, that's how it was. Fine margins, but Sabalenka probably did deserve to get the win.
Yeah, we did this review like 2 days ago, right after that day's play. And I remember you being a little stunned by my comment that Linette Sabalenka was a very high quality match.
And I mentioned it to Nick just now, actually, because I spoke to him briefly at the end of the match.
I maintain that. I mean, yeah, Aryna was almost out of this, obviously. She was very close to losing in 2. But then she breaks like with these insane backhands line that she keeps finding. Like in general, the rally tolerance was very high from her. Just for patches at least, she was able to like really lock in and literally avoid hitting any errors, despite going super aggressive at it. Yeah, it was a great performance. I mean, she's been going 3 sets every time so far in this tournament. I mean, so has Daniel, but of course she's out of it right now. But yeah, she does look very strong. She's gonna play Andreeva, who last year she crushed, and she's kinda so far in Mira's very young career, she's kinda been like the nightmare opponent for her as well. So, and at least on paper, the opportunity is there. I would like Mira to like maybe threaten more this time and actually, be able to unload some of that Sabalenka power somehow. I don't know if it will happen, but well, Sabalenka loves Madrid and Madrid loves her.
Sabalenka's ball toss today, there was 1 or 2 tosses from her, and I thought, I think she's going to have an issue here with this serve, this particular one. It seems like it's the highest ball toss on the tour. I have no stats to back it up. It's just me watching the ball so far up in the air is before it comes down. And there was one particular ball toss today. I thought she's going to double fault here, and she did. And I think it was down to that particular toss anyway. But I will say this, that there was a couple of funny cat and mouse points. And although Sabalenka is maybe not quite so well known for her variety, I'm not sure that Danielle is either. And in fact, when it did come to sort of a little bit of variety, at least Danielle seemed to have a bit more than Danielle. Arena had a bit more than Danielle. There'll be some talk as well about Danielle's interactions with the crowd throughout this tournament. Trust me, it's almost a non-event. It's almost a non-argument. Yes, she's had a few issues with one or two individuals in the crowd. That's up to her. Don't care. She may win the next point. She may lose the next point. She may win a match. She may not win the match. That's up to her. But to me, the Madrid crowd is no different to any other crowd on the tour. Maybe some people will say the French crowd is worse than others. I don't know. I know that Laura Siegemund, for example, have an argument about the US Open crowd, and I'm sure many other players, Daniel Medvedev, will talk about the Australian Open and so on, and the US Open as well. So honestly, she may have had, it did seem to be quite very minor, and that was it. Anyway, that's just something I wanted to highlight regarding that. I don't know if you want to add anything, or we can just move on to the next match.
No, I definitely don't want to add anything to that. I really didn't stop and think about this even once. As you said, I don't even know how that might become a topic of discussion. Obviously, I was just thinking during this match that, like, if Danielle was going to do it, like win Miami, Charleston, Madrid, it would like kind of be unprecedented, because if you get 20 match win streaks on the WTA tour, like it's usually done by like, multiple slam champions or something like that. And for someone who, like, before this year wasn't really screaming major winner to you, I would be just insane if she was able to pull something like this off. Obviously, she didn't, but it's still a phenomenal season. She's still going to be in contention for many more titles if she plays like this. I actually saw this poll that was intriguing to me on Twitter as well. Like, would it be unfair if Danielle Collins retired without a slam? And the answers were yes and no. I think that is pretty like that's not really a good question to ask. Like, to me, it's obviously fair if she doesn't, because before this year, no one was really posing that question. No one was saying, how is it possible that Danielle Collins doesn't have a slam? Of course, she had a final and she went 5-1 up in the second set there, but like that's not really a thing that anyone was talking about. How is it possible that Danielle Collins doesn't have a slam? So I think that question was wrong in like sort of in its origin even, but it was just pretty intriguing to me that someone even posed it.
Yeah. Anyway, fingers crossed that she can get back on the horse pretty quickly. I just think that the clay season has come at the wrong time for her, and her best form, unfortunately, began in Miami as opposed to, Australia, for example, or perhaps even during the North American swing. Fingers crossed so that she can hang on to it for the rest of the year. Rybakina threw in straight sets. Swiatek threw in straight sets. Again, the Swiatek result, I didn't see a single ball. It's a sort of match I would turn on if it's like 5-5 in the first set, or 5-5 in the second set, or something like that. But that was not a score. That score, if you said to me, Sorribes Tormos got to 5-5, I would have been stunned, because for me, she's just the perfect opponent for Iga, and that scoreline suggests it.
Well, she can get quite uncomfortable. Like, if the score is close and suddenly you need to still keep like building up points patiently. Yeah, I mean, I can imagine how she could be tight. She could be a tough matchup for some players for sure. But Swiatek has now played her 4 times since Wimbledon. Only one of these was like remotely tight, and even that was such a good lead up to the tournament for Swiatek in Beijing. I did actually see a bit of that match. She played a drop shot. She won the point. Yeah.
Did she win it outright?
Yes, she won it
Oh,
outright.
wow. So it was a drop shot winner.
I mean, Sara Sorribes Tormo brings out this from you, right? Because you got to put her away somehow. So you're going to end up hitting drop shots. You're going to end up hitting slices. You're going to end up going to the net. But yeah, I mean, this time it just seemed like Iga had a very clear plan from the get-go, and was just doing really well at sort of making sure that Sorribes Tormo doesn't bother her with her ridiculous grinding, and basically with the ability to make every single match a slog. I mean, never got there. And not much to add. And the same as you said about the Rybakina Bejlek match, I think, again, what we said during the review today,
Is that my internet or yours, Damien? Maybe it's Damien's. But yeah, Rybakina, if it's Damien's, I'll continue talking. Rybakina going through in straight sets, probably no great surprise there. So both of them very, very much on course to meet each other. I'm just wondering, are they in the same half of the draw? And therefore,
No, they're not.
Rybakina? Oh, okay. So Rybakina and Sabalenka on course of the semi-finals, are they?
Yeah. And I just wanted to say that, like with Bielik on the review 2 days ago or whenever it was, I basically said that like the hype that Bielik is getting this event is about her being young and winning matches, but not actually about her game, right? And yeah, I mean, she kind of proved it today.
Yeah. Okay.
Obviously,
Well,
she had a very tricky opponent. I'm just saying that like Sarah Bielik, for now at least, she really doesn't do that much with the ball.
yeah. Well, funnily enough, we've gone through the sort of top three players, although they're not top three in the rankings, but to me, they're the top three players from this year. We've touched on all three of them at least already. But the fourth person in this sort of quartet, albeit that she has the potential of getting to world number 2, and despite the fact that she lost today, still has that potential because I think Sabalenka has to make at least the final or maybe even win the title. I heard Nick say she needs to win the title, Sabalenka, to stay at number 2. But then I saw on TV they said that Sabalenka just needs to make the final. Either way, Sabalenka lost before the final, and Coco Gauff will be at world number 2. Although I do think there also is another permutation where Rybakina wins the title and might even be able to get to number 2. I'm not sure. But let's just stick to the results. And the result from today is that Madison Keys beat Coco Gauff in 3 sets. Now, I'm following the score from that one, I think at the same time as doing something else. I think maybe even watching, I think maybe watching Corda against Medvedev, but my mind is frazzled right now. But what I do know is Keys wins the first set on a really tight tie break, 7-4, I think it was. Gauff then wins the second set, and in the third set, Gauff is up a break, and I'm thinking, okay. But I did see some comments from Matthew in the chat earlier about how Gauff kind of collapsed with a lot of double faults as that match neared the end, and in the end, it was Keys who got over the line.
Yeah, 2-4 down. She definitely did collapse. I think, as usual, there's a lot of overreaction with Coco Gauff. Kind of anytime she steps out of the court, and both negative and positive. As I think, again, I will reference that review that we did 2 days ago. It's definitely nothing weird for her right now to lose to Madison Keys on a pretty quick court. And yeah, it was not really a matchup that she was comfortable in from the start. The serve not helping out is pretty big too, because that usually is actually one of her strengths, especially the first serve, of course, the amount of power that she produces on it. Well, if it's really like becomes like a double-edged sword, that's not great. And I'm not gonna start talking about the Coco Gauff forehand again, but well, that's kind of where she is at the moment. I get it. She can get to number 2 if Sabalenka doesn't make the final. Rybakina can't get there actually. She would be still, even with a title, a little behind Coco. Just like 50 points away or something. She could get to number 2, but it's pretty clear that since, let's say, post US Open, she's been nowhere near number 2 in the power rankings.
No.
There hasn't really been an event like this. Well, the Australian Open obviously can be mentioned, and
Nice draw, but yeah.
She beats Sabalenka. She maybe wins the title, but the draw was very nice, or at least opened up very nicely for her. And so
even then,
yeah,
she
I don't think it's really
against was it Yastremska or was it Kostyuk, but there was another one as well, wasn't there? Maybe there was 2 that she struggled with, but anyway, certainly Kostyuk.
Caroline Dolphins, maybe
Yeah.
second round, but I don't think
she's basically reversing into the number 2 spot if Sabalenka doesn't.
Kinda.
I mean, yeah, it's because what happened with her 12 months is so lopsided into sort of an 8-week period between sort of end of July and beginning of September or middle of September that it's so.
You can probably put it down to like 5 weeks even, Canada,
Yeah.
Cincinnati, US Open, well, Washington.
Did she not win a 500 as well?
Yeah. Actually, yeah, that 500 as well. So it's basically like what, 3,800 points or something like that from that 6-week stretch. And
Yeah.
well, that's kind of what's really boosting her ranking right now. But yeah, post US Open, she hasn't been up with Swiatek, Rybakina, Sabalenka, and that's kind of just a continuation of this.
Yeah, sure. I did think that she would beat Madison Keys nevertheless. But anyway, Madison Keys progresses, so hats off to her. And I see somebody mention Putin Saver in the chat. Fair enough. Actually, today's result, yeah, a little maybe surprising for one or two. Actually, it was the performance in the first set against Qinwen Zheng that really impressed me. I know she beat Dolheider as well. She's going to be playing Rybakina next, so the assignments are going to get a little bit tougher from now on. But the first set against Qinwen Zheng, I know Qinwen ended up retiring. I didn't see anything noticeable with Qinwen during the first set, albeit that I didn't notice anything with Yannick Sinner today, even though he was pointing at something. But I remember seeing Qinwen Zheng talking to her box a few times in the first set, but it didn't seem to be a physical issue, and that didn't seem to manifest itself until the beginning of the second set, and that's when obviously she retired at 2-2 love. But it also looked like a situation with Qinwen that she'll probably be appearing in Rome will be fine. But whatever, anyway. Putin Saver impressively through, beating Qinwen Zheng, Dolheider, and Kazakina en route to the quarterfinals, where she's going to play Rybakina, who, Rybakina, of course, is on a something streak. I'm just trying to think. Since Miami, she won 5 matches in Stuttgart, and she's probably won 3, I guess, here in Miami. So it's an 8-match winning streak, if I'm correct. And actually, only losing 1 in Miami, and that was the final, of course. But everyone loses only 1 in Miami, of course. It just depends on whether it's the first round or the final. But you get my point. She's in amazing form and has to be the hot favorite against Putin Saver tomorrow.
Daniel Collins didn't. And also Putin Rybakina is not tomorrow. So that's for one thing.
The day after, sorry, yes.
Yeah, the quarterfinals are split into 2 days. Yeah, all Kazakh quarterfinal, all Russian quarterfinal, however you want to call it. I mean, there's definitely going to be some narratives regarding Kazakhstan. I've had some instant, like recently with Shevchenko, of course, because he switched to Kazakhstan this year. So I've had someone tell me, for example, that I should write somewhere that he's the first Kazakhstani to do something or whatever. And I just switch it to representing Kazakhstan every time because I just feel like it would be stupid. But anyway, that's obviously a very different topic. And yeah, Putintseva is actually on a great run. She's like on like a kind of Fabian Marozsan WTA 1000 type of deal. I mean, this year she's made the forefront in every single, since Indian Wells, she's made the forefront at every single one of them, at least. So it is surprising, but the big question now is whether she can actually threaten one of the top guns, and that we will learn on Wednesday.
Yes. Just a quick thought on Daniel Collins has probably been the 4th best player this year. I would say for me,
or
maybe
third. Like literally,
maybe
you
third.
could make an argument for third. Yeah, and
You mean ahead
she
of
is actually
Sabalenka?
ahead of Sabalenka. I could make an argument for that because obviously Arena, besides the Australian Open, has been kind of off. But Daniel is also number 4 in the WTA race, I think, and the only player outside of the top 3 who has 2K points already. And she's not going to be passed by anyone this week either, because every single player sort of around that range is already out of the tournament. I mean, when it comes to Coco, she's like only 50 or 100 points away ahead of her. But yeah, I mean, you could easily make the case that Daniel has been in the top 4, maybe even top 3 in terms of form this year. Of course, Sabalenka, if she ends up winning this title, making the final, beating her along the way, that then kind of strengthens Arena's case again, yes.
Yeah. What time zone is this, by the way? APAC, is that one in Australia somewhere, maybe? APAC time. Anyway, apparently it's quite a nice time for Julian, wherever he's in the world. Somewhere maybe in the Pacific even. I don't know. But whatever time zone it is,
Asia, Pacific,
yeah,
something,
wherever you are.
Australia.
And the thing is, it's not unusual for us to do a show, certainly, maybe probably about an hour before. I'm just looking at the time. I didn't realize it was quite so late. But certainly like after French Open and Wimbledon, with those last ball drop shows that we do for those tournaments, this actual time that we're doing it now is quite a common occurrence. Even ATP weekly and WTA weekly can be not a million miles away from this time zone. So great that you're on board, Julian, once again. And also by becoming a member, as you've done, you'll get to see some little bonus footage. And I'll be doing some on-the-ground coverage from a couple of tournaments in the next few weeks where we actually are on the ground there, Julian. So you'll get a few little bonus videos from there as well, in Wedash at the Challenger and also the WTA event in Strasbourg. Okay, bit of housekeeping done. Let's get back to the tennis. There are a couple of women's matches from today that I think I didn't mention. One, of course, was a friend of the show, Jasmine Paolini. You did touch on Mira Andreeva and the fact that she's obviously gone through, but Paolini just didn't quite have enough against Andreeva. I only saw the crucial points every time my TV would switch to that match. It was like, this is a set point or a match point or whatever. So I can't give you too much. But I think I did see a tweet somewhere saying that Paolini maybe didn't quite do herself justice or had a few chances in that match.
I mean, if you saw set points, then Paolini had a set point at 5-2 in the opening set.
5-2 up.
So yeah, that's kind of the
first set.
That's kind of the big deal about this match. Yes.
Okay. Oh wow. Okay, Jasmine, you know where I am. All right. So yeah, we'll see you at a tournament soon. Jasmine, get yourself on that list for Strasbourg. If you're not on it already, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking that's a long stretch with the French Open. But listen, it's a WTA 500. All right, it's just been upgraded. Could be a chance for you to get yourself a nice little title. So get yourself down to Strasbourg before heading over to Paris. Anyway, Paolini out, Andreeva through. Maria Sakkari, just after I named her the GOAT, decides to go and lose to Haddad Maia, but perhaps I should have seen that coming because I think their head-to-head is 4-0 or 5-0, is it? Something like this?
4, I think, by now. Yeah. I didn't see a ball from that. I think that was during the watch along for Bublik Shelton.
Yeah.
I was only following it sort of on the basis of our talk earlier and how
yes,
basically
you were teasing me. I know, I heard that.
Well, yeah, I was teasing you a little bit. Of course, as I said, I didn't watch a ball from Sakkari this week, so that's why I have very little to say on her. But I was like kind of unconvinced about the prospect of her pushing Swiatek to 7-5 in the third. Now we'll never know. Although I do think that Haddad Maia can actually threaten.
You think Haddad Maia can threaten Swiatek? I mean, they had a pretty
threaten
nice...
as in win a few games, Threaten as in win a few games. I mean...
Yes, they had a nice... Did they play each other in the semis at the French Open last year?
Yes, the second set tiebreak was very dramatic, and it's kind of forgotten, I think, by now.
Yeah, I just about remember it. It was a lot of fun. Okay, and there is one more match, which is Ons Jabeur beating Yelena Ostapenko. A little bit of needle, just a very tiny amount of needle in that match. In that, I think that Ostapenko seemed to be a bit annoyed with basically everyone, including Ons's box. But I love the way that Ons dealt with it. I saw a comment from her post-match where she's just basically like, "Yep, well, we all have our own demons, and I've had my own and ups and downs, and maybe Yelena's in a bit more of a down mode at the moment. My box likes to support me. Maybe that annoys my opponent, but we move on." And I quite like those post-match comments from Ons. Ons as well has not been in the best of form either. In fact, I described it as a clash of the two players out of form. I still stand by that, albeit that I think Ons' stretch has been a lot longer than Yelena's. Anyway, Ons goes through. If you have a comment to make about anything I've said or that match in particular, then feel free to do so. Otherwise, we'll move on.
Now, that was another one during that window with Bublik Shelton, so I didn't get to see a ball from that. Not much to say. I mean, Jabeur also is on a win streak in Madrid, just like Sabalenka, because she didn't play the 2023 edition after injuring herself. I mean, she got injured in the Stuttgart semis with Swiatek.
Yes, of course. Yes.
So, yeah. You've got two defending champions in a way.
So maybe it's Verdasco that's been upsetting, or Shelbar upsetting Ostapenko.
Maybe. I could imagine Ostapenko being upset by either of these two. Who knows?
Yeah. Okay, fine. So the quarterfinal lineup on the women's side is set, and it is as follows. I'm going to show a nice little image from the WTA website here, where Haddad Maia will play Iga Swiatek, Ons Jabeur, Madison Keys, Sabalenka, Andreeva, and Putintseva Rybakina. I think that's a pretty stellar 8 players.
No, I'm just. I unfortunately I looked at the chat. Anyway, yeah. I mean, you've got Swiatek, of course, in the top half. She kind of looks like the main favorite there, but there's some big hitters there. I mean, there's some players who on a good day could threaten her in quicker conditions, and definitely the bottom half. We're just kind of looking at that potential Rybakina Sabalenka thing, but if someone is gonna change that, that's probably Andreeva. I would love to see a competitive match from her against Arena. As I said earlier, that's like kind of the main nightmare matchup for her so far. I know she's only played her once, but it was a brutal defeat, and you could see that's not exactly the ideal opponent for her at the moment, at least. You know, a year has gone by. It was Madrid last year, fourth round. A year and a couple of days has gone by,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
I don't know. I'm hoping that it's going to be different this time, not in the sense that I, want either player to win or lose, but just get a much more competitive affair. So that's probably the match of the quarters. But yeah, that's gonna be on Wednesday. The only the top two
I,
matches tomorrow.
given that I'm sure we won't be doing this show tomorrow, at least I won't be.
Yeah.
Therefore, I'm doing these kind of every other day, just because that's how it falls conveniently for me, whether it be due to work commitments or other commitments. And it turns out that it's Rafa.
Other commitments.
Yes, sometimes. Although actually, I combined the two on Saturday, much to
I
Jake
know that's
Jake's
why I
enjoyment.
said it. That's why I said it
Yeah,
actually.
yeah. But yes, but sometimes work as well. But yes, it's also coinciding with every other day being Rafa Nadal Day. Although tomorrow is also going to be a day when Nadal's playing, but I won't be able to do this tomorrow. So just having a quick look at those. Listen, regarding that Andreeva Sabalenka thing, the gap, at least in terms of logic, to me, should have narrowed because Andreeva is a year on. She should be a better player. I think she probably is a better player. And also with Sabalenka, I don't think she's quite, despite her unbelievable performance today, I don't think she's quite at the same consistency level that she was at a year ago. But that doesn't mean that she can't bring it in a couple of days from now. But still, the logic would suggest it will be a more competitive affair, whether it goes to 3 sets or if it's 2 tight sets. We'll see. Logic and tennis don't always go together. Rybakina for me is a heavy favourite against Putin-Seva. Keys could go either way, and I hope that Swiatek Hadadmaya is as fun as it was last year. I don't remember the first set. Was it quite an easy first set win for
6-2.
Swiatek? Okay. But I enjoyed the match. I remember it came after, of course, the epic semi-final, was it? Between Mukova and Sabalenka. So it felt a bit like, as we would say in English, after the Lord Mayor show. But in fact, I thought it was still a lot of fun. And maybe that 6-2 set was still a lot of fun. But as you say, the tiebreak in the second set. And yeah, I was actually pulling for Hadamaya to take it to a third. But in the end, Iga, as she always does, or often does in Paris, got over the line. So yeah, I'm pleased with this 8. And yet now, as I talk about it, 2 of the 4 semifinals, i.e. the Iga and Elena ones, for me, should be pretty one-sided.
Quarterfinals.
Quarterfinals, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see tomorrow, but there's definitely a bit of intrigue for in Świątek Haddad-Maia to me. There's just
Okay.
so much about Haddad-Maia's game that like makes her unpleasant to face. The leftiness, the physical aspect, the power still, the way that she clearly feels very good in the altitude at Madrid, at least this year. Last year, she actually lost to one of these women, Mira Andreeva, in the second round, and it was her only match, so can't really say if she felt comfortable there. But yeah, Rybakina Putintseva is one where that's probably the one that I will skip
Yeah.
unless
Shabert,
something is happening there, unless I see that there's action, and then sure.
Shabert Keys is random. It really could be anything. I just hope that Shabert's getting her mojo back. There's something about the results that she's getting and the performances at the moment that don't quite yet convince me. Despite the fact that I didn't see her match today, I saw her match in chunks at least against Leylah Fernandez, and I don't know. It's a bit like if it's a bit like when Coco got to the semis in Australia, or I'm not saying that she's had a super easy run because Ostapenko and Leylah Fernandez are decent, but there's still something at the back of my mind that makes me go, I'm not sure. If I see her put in a stellar performance against Keys, whether she wins or loses the semi-final or not, I'll be like, okay, maybe she's back on the horse. But lots to look forward to there. Over to the men, which will be coming up tomorrow. Nadal, Lehetsko, I think we've already sort of touched on that to some extent, at least. That's obviously the last match on tomorrow. What is first up? Oh, Medvedev, Bublik, and Rublev, Griekspoor. And then that'll be followed by Hurkacz, Fritz, Cerundolo, Zverev. I must say that maybe Medvedev, Bublik from that quartet is of most interest. Maybe Cerundolo, Zverev could bring something. What do you think about those 4 matches?
I mean, Medvedev Bublik is definitely going to be pretty chaotic. You don't really know what to expect from both guys, given that Daniel is on clay and Bublik is Bublik. But I don't know, for some reason, I actually don't really care for watching it, to be honest. I'm pretty sure there will be a lot of challenger action at the time that I will prefer. Rublev Griekspoor, if Talon is going to be stand up to the challenge, which he probably should. I mean, is he much of an underdog there? I don't think so. So that could quite get interesting if it's not just a routine win for him. Zverev Cerundolo, I mean, usually I'd love this matchup, but the problem is that Zverev is in Madrid, right? And he's unbeatable here, apparently. So it's really hard to expect that. And who was the fourth? Hurkacz Fritz. That's just
Hurkacz Fritz,
I mean,
yeah.
You can toss a coin. Both are really good in these Madrid conditions, I think. So
yeah. Okay. We will have a watch along for at least one match tomorrow, but I'll probably do one in the daytime. And we'll have Lehetska on against Nadal in the evening. I know Jack will join. We didn't quite iron it out whether you wanted to do a daytime match or whether you want to do that match tomorrow. Up to you. I can probably find someone for Nadal, you see. Probably.
no, I think it's okay. I'm pretty sure I don't have my usual commitment on tomorrow, but even if I did, I would be back for Nadal.
Yeah.
But I have to actually find that out. I think Nadal's okay.
Good. Because I like a nice, solid, safe pair of hands for that, and hopefully Jack will get to join you as well. He said, I think 10 p.m. UK time, which is 11 p.m. European time. So whether that be 1 set, 2 sets, or 3 depends on all sorts of things. Anyway, other matches tomorrow. Sinner Khachanov does not excite me. Struff Alcaraz, repeat of last year's final. Yeah, why not? Why not? And if Struff can, Alcaraz is winning it probably, but let's have a great, entertaining affair. That's probably, that one and Nadal Lehetska for me are the 2 matches that I'm most excited about. I'm not necessarily expecting the same from you, but maybe Struff Alcaraz. Are you pumped for that one?
Well, that's the best one, I think, clearly. Nadal Lehechka, couldn't really care less, honestly, about the match. I don't know, just there's no story there for me yet, at least. But Struff Alcaraz, definitely. And I wouldn't be so decisive about it, even, why do we think that Carlos is definitely winning this one? What exactly is telling us that he will? It's in these conditions, if Struff can maintain that crazy form he's been in, it's pretty open for him. Obviously, he's the guy who kind of has that pressure of having to deliver and having to execute his game at a high standard in order to win. Will he? That remains to be seen.
Yeah.
Ooh, nice haircut from Struffy there.
Yeah, that's from a year ago. Yeah, and that's without his hat on as well. So
really, I thought it was from 10 years ago.
Make sure you maybe just every now and again some old videos might gain some relevance. We've got a bunch of videos from Madrid from a year ago when we were accredited there with the press conferences of Struff after losing. Maybe even Jan Leonard could go back and listen to his words and take some motivation from those. So Jan Leonard, if you're tuning in, do check out the words that you uttered at your press conference a year ago, and maybe even find some extra motivation from Carlos Alcaraz's words as well, where you can just go, now I'm going to go and beat him tomorrow. So all of these press conferences here, as you can see, are in the vault. So do please check those out, and do make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you are new. I think we're just about done with what was an hour and 10 minutes. So I think we're really pretty much on the button, if not maybe even slightly beyond it. Anything else to add?
Nope. 8 matches on the men's side tomorrow, 2 on the women's. I know people will be complaining about that because, well, it's the subpar, it's the worst system compared to Indian Wells. But, well.
So what is Indian Wells does pretty much has every round the same, right? First round men, first round women.
Women don't start on Tuesday, yeah. Both draws start on Wednesday. And you also don't have the ridiculous weekend when you have one match a day. You actually get 2 finals on one day. Yeah. And I think, well, let's just not drag every event and then basically make a Grand Slam out of it. Because I've never really had an issue with there being a Grand Slam final on the women's singles on Saturday and the men's on Sunday. Like, no one has ever complained about that. I guess just because of the stature of the events and like how important they feel. But if it's 7-8 times a year, then I do find it kind of ridiculous, actually. But, well, for now, we've had 3 ATP/WTA 1000 events this year, 3 combined, and only Indian Wells has followed the, in my eyes at least, superior system.
Makes sense, and it's a lot easier to keep up and so on and so forth. Okay, wonderful. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you all tomorrow, at least for one match, but probably 2 or 3. Because I think I'll do at least one during the day, and we'll have Lehecka and Nadal in the evening. I just haven't decided which match I'll do tomorrow yet. Maybe Struff Alcaraz. We'll see how the timings work out. So, everybody, thanks for tuning in, and you know the drill. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.